years that Maschine have been running motorcycle adventure tours, we've seen some amazing places. The concept for our Great Divide ride began as far back as 2013. I started thinking about all of the amazing tracks I've ridden along the east coast of Australia and realised the one common link was the Great Dividing Range. Australia's Great Divide is the world's longest mountain range in a single country. Stretching out over more than 3,500 kilometres, this almighty mountain range is a watershed running the length of Australia's east coast, from Mount Zero in the Grampians all the way up to the tip of Cape York in far north Queensland. The challenge was how to do this great overland expedition, covering some 6,000 kilometres as a Maschine group ride, like we're accustomed to doing. We formulated a plan to split the ride up into 3 stages that would be run consecutively over a couple of years. This would make it more accessible to more riders. The GDR concept was obviously appealing enough for 80 riders to join us in Halls Gap for Stage 1. This is a part of our Maschine rides that I enjoy the most. The energy and excitement is awesome when a bunch of our regular riders meet up again. The storytelling begins immediately and notes are compared about how they got to the start of the event.
David, how are you?
Very well. We are here to do the Maschine GDR 1, starting at Halls Gap.
Because many riders had quite a ride just to get to the start, Day 0 was all about tyres. I was starting to regret my offer of a tyre changing service by about bike number 12. Motos have been a huge supporter of Team Maschine since 2015. We were very happy to have Motos come on board and support our events because their adventure tyre range is unbeatable in Australian conditions. To cover the huge mix of terrain facing us, you need tyres that will last and can handle any conditions. Motos threw their support behind the GDR concept by providing a complimentary tyre for every rider that signed up for all 3 stages. That's great support. To prep riders both mentally and physically for the upcoming week, we headed off to Flame Brothers in Halls Gap for a meat feast. This was the first of many great dinners through the week. Over dinner, we had our riders briefing and I laid out the plan for the rest of the week.
Welcome everyone once again to the Great Divide Ride Stage 1 for 2021. Australia is a pretty unique country, but riding up the Great Dividing Range, as you probably all know, that's where some of the really sweet riding is. Mount Zero juts up out of the landscape and rises up, and that is literally the start of the Great Dividing Range that runs all the way up to Cape York. You will probably never find a grade 6 track on a Maschine ride. If you do, you're welcome to slap me. To put grade 6 in perspective, we're talking Erzberg Rodeo, if you've ever seen that event in Austria, or trials riding stuff. So this scale is designed to suit everything from a Goldwing on the Hume Highway to a trials bike going up stupid vertical slopes. So have fun out there. It's look, this is by far the biggest event that we've undertaken with Maschine, so I'm really looking forward to getting it underway tomorrow. So there's lots of support on these events, so just yell out, stick your hand up and we'll find someone to help out. Enjoy, and we'll see you all in the morning.
Our route would cover about 2,200 kilometres by the time we reached the Hunter Valley in 7 days' time.
I'm at the base of the mountain running uphill.
Few bags going.
Running for the top, coming down on you.
Yep.
Just in case there was any doubt we were pushing our luck running this event so close to the start of winter, a quick look around the breakfast table inside the cafe that morning told me that perhaps we got the timing wrong for this one. It was fresh.
Who's excited?
Absolutely.
Here at Halls Gap this morning, day one of stage one of the Great Divide Ride. We're about to undertake our 6,500 kilometre journey. Got a great start to the day and clear weather for the next few days hopefully, so let's hit it.
Let's get a little bit, turn it up. Let's just see how high we can go. Turn it up. No stopping till we lose our control. Turn it up. Until we feel it down in our soul.
The first taste of dirt was sampled not more than 10 kilometres after departing Halls Gap, with a great fun-flowing gravel road to get in the groove and get tail happy on. Rolling into the pretty town of Daylesford prompted pause to seek out a bakery for a second breakfast or an early lunch, depending on riders' progress in the pack. Being a Sunday, the streets were packed, so our already filthy mob made quite a scene in the main street amongst the tourists. Tales were already being told of exploits on the trails, including one particularly deep mud hole that seemed to drench plenty of riders and their bikes.
I went through, water came back together, went over the windscreen into my helmet, down the side of my jacket, bike. I think Dino, you got stuck in the bog hole.
Front wheel got stuck in the mud, and I had to ease it into the puddle and had trouble getting out basically.
This was followed up by John Drake, whose 1150 GS had already had its face rearranged by a kangaroo, but he was still in the fight. I clearly still had thoughts on that tart that I'd just smashed in Daylesford, because the very first mud puddle caught me out. I took a run in the bush.
Nice one!
What followed in this first enduro section was some sweet twin and single track joining up many varied mud puddles. The technique to get through the mud varied as much as the mix of bikes that tackled them. Some proceeded with caution, others with hopeful fistfuls. Tom, on his DRZ 400, was a particular delight to watch, with no Fs given. Later on, Jorden went off half-cocked and dropped his bike at a photo stop, thinking his stand was down. Of course, all the boys couldn't pull out their phones quick enough to catch him in the act.
Hey, I thought that was down.
Put the stand down first.
I thought it was down. It was half-cocked.
This region is dotted with classic country reminders of earlier days, mostly from the gold rush era of the 1850s. The Goldfields region of Victoria sits near the beginning of the Great Dividing Range and has so many treasures to unearth. Old mate in a Land Rover pulled up and told us they had a Vinduro race through here the day before. He was on for a chat, but we were on for some skids and wheelies. What followed for the next half hour was a great display of tight formation, low-level flying. Such a hoot.
That was freaking awesome. Yeah, really good. Really nice, just flowing, and yeah, the trails were just spot on. So good work, Nico.
Typical us, you know, always the latest ones to turn up, but we did the big boggy section today, so we had a lot of fun.
It was satisfying to reflect on a magic day one. While most riders arrived in before dark, there was plenty of activity in the car park as bikes were already being fettled and worked on to prepare for the next day. One particularly recalcitrant Portuguese bike was causing Pete some problems after dying earlier in the day. Despite many attempts, the fault was unfixable in the car park. So roadside assistance was called upon to come and pick the bike up in the morning and take the rider to the airport, where he would fly home and collect his most trustworthy Africa twin to continue on with the ride. Picturesque Cleveland Winery was our chosen stop for night one, and it really set the mood for the evening. Rustic historic buildings were tinted with just enough modern amenities to make for a great place to recharge the batteries. The meal streamed out and helped to get us back on an equilibrium, ready for the next day. More than one tale was told around the table that night about the day's riding exploits.
I had fun today. That was good. So today was relatively easy, a little bit cruisy, and it's going to ramp up from here for the rest of the week. Righto, so the route there tomorrow, as I mentioned, most of you should be pretty comfortable with doing that bonus enduro section. Take it easy in there initially to get your eye in and get a feel for the terrain underneath your tyres. Got the little wonder hill climb in there. This is an enduro section. I think I've called it grade 5 on the route sheets, that I will say single cylinder bikes only, and don't go in there without multiple bikes. You're going to need a friend here probably. So if you do take the adventure route, you won't be disappointed because we've got a really awesome bitumen road there. Give you a chance to chill out, relax a little bit. Thanks everyone, enjoy the evening.
Crisp, cool morning started off with just the sound of nature breaking the silence. As the sun streamed in, warming our souls, we did our best to fill our bellies and perhaps delay just for a little longer the inevitable barrage of cold that would assault our bodies during the morning's ride. Yeah, one more coffee.
Good to go.
You gonna turn it on for us today?
Oh yeah, gonna hit some enduro tracks I reckon. Should be good fun.
Here we go, day 2 on the Great Divide Ride for 2021. We're leaving Cleveland Winery in Lansfield and Yarra Ranges, and we're heading across towards Mansfield tonight, running around the Marysville area. So it's going to be some awesome riding, beautiful weather today.
Bumblebee 2.0.
Bumblebee 2.0, that's exactly it. Yesterday was a good start to a challenge, and it ran pretty smoothly except for one little tumble when I tried to do a Yui. But I picked the big beast up, and now I know I can wear right.
Yeah.
It was bitingly cold as we made our way across the Yarra Ranges, with the temperature barely cracking 5 degrees for the first few hours. A bit of single track was spotted just off the main road, so a sneaky detour was in order to help warm us up. Located just north of Victoria's capital, Melbourne, the Yarra Ranges are another famous wine region, But for the adventure riders, this region is probably more synonymous with rocks, mud and small hills that can be considered a precursor for the proper high country ones. And mud it was we found.
Well, it's a deep hole. She's a deep one, Gav.
Such was its slipperiness in places. Just when you were building up some trust with it and understanding what your motorcycle was capable of, you would be confronted with a god-awful bog hole that stunk of death. A strategically positioned cameraman does nothing to allay the fear of riders, only to heighten them. Onto Little Wonder Track. Jorden and I were on a mission to make sure we arrived at Enduro Section 3 nice and early so we could capture the action of any riders attempting Little Wonder. But first, we had to get to the top ourselves.
You bastard. Nearly. Come on, George, you got this. Yeah. No. Coming back. Down there. Oh, no.
And this is one of our enduro track options. We're on Little Wonder Track here at the moment. You might notice a bike laying in its side partway up the hill there. I call that a pass. I got past this big rut on Little Wonder. Jorden wasn't so lucky first time round, but second crack he got through. Bit of a tricky one. We called this one a grade 5 and you can probably see why. So this part on Little Wonder Track is probably the tricky bit. This is the ideal line up here. It may not look ideal, but that's definitely not ideal. So the approach is on this one to carry nice bit of momentum, which is quite tricky on this hill with all this loose rock that we've got here. Really hard to get traction and drive on, but you've got to build the momentum back there so that you can run a high line up here on this off-camber section of the track and try and hold that line as you go up the hill here and keep up on the right-hand side there. There is potentially another line on the left-hand side of the track, up in the ferns and a bit of grass, maybe a bit more drive and traction there, but the problem is trying to get into that side from down the hill there. There's no clean line up this one, so it's a matter of don't look at it for too long because it's probably going to freak you out. This is enduro option only, so we're going to sit here for a while and see how many decide to take this option on.
On the top of the mountain, yeah, we've heard our way to the top of the mountain. Yeah, we never coming down from the top
of the mountain. Sadly, our star on the DRZ from the day prior, Dr. Tom, made an appearance but really didn't unleash the beast this time. Then along came David. Captain, as he is affectionately known, is not one to miss out on things in life. If a challenge is put in front of him, he tends to say yes before knowing what the challenge may entail, He also seems to place a comparatively low value on his own well-being.
Look at him, he's standing over it like he slayed it.
No.
Conquered it.
I can't do anything else. I am rooted.
After filling much of our day at Little Wonder, a few of us found ourselves pushing to get into Mansfield before sundown. The setting sun only helped to make Bonnie Doon seem all the more attractive.
Show of hands who didn't fall off today. What about Little Wonder, the little special enduro track? Do you want to have a guess at how many actually got up there? 2. Well, 3 really, but there was one successful non-staff member and 4 people to help. Stand up, David! We also had a couple of injuries today, unfortunately. Both Rob Bent and Craig have taken themselves out with the lower leg injury, so they're both in hospital at the moment, getting bandaged up, patched up. We'll wait and see what happens. It's going to get colder from here, and tomorrow we've got a fair whack of wet weather on its way. Now you can see tomorrow we've got a big deviation in the route right from the get-go. We've made the run up over Craig's Hut and enduro section. Bright's famous for the autumn colours at this time of the year. You get all the deciduous trees dropping their leaves. We're at the tail end of it now, but it's still quite pretty at this time of the year. Your tyre pressures to 10-15 psi could be the difference between getting you out of a bog hole, getting you up a hill, getting you over a log, getting up a little rock step or not. So just have a bit of a read of yourself tonight and make those good calls, because it's a big one tomorrow and the one up to Jindabyne is even bigger. We'll see you all out there in the morning.
Day 3, Mansfield to Bright, 148 kilometres. Enduro, 335 kilometres.
Hard work, but someone's got to do it.
With the legendary Craig's Hut on the agenda for morning of Day 3, there was added excitement in the air. I was surprised at the previous night's riders briefing when I asked how many riders had been to Craig's Hut before. There was comparatively few holding their hand aloft. Sometimes, when you're in the field, repairs are made that don't exactly feature in the manufacturer's handbook. We had a few such issues to sort out this morning before we left Mansfield.
What's happening here, Nick?
Trying to fix your ups, Jord. Just a bit of straightening on the rear brake lever. See if we can get it a bit more functional. This ain't no factory mechanics, but sometimes we just got to do what we got to do. Little MAP gas bottle helped to straighten things out, and a bit of duct tape and zip ties and get things rolling.
Now, we were heading into the high country proper, and with some of the highest peaks of the Great Dividing Range ahead, we were guaranteed to have some hills to climb, streams to cross, and plenty of erosion humps in between.
No worries, all nickels and dimes, or a 9-to-5 grind. I gotta get loose sometimes. In trouble, seeing all the signs, but it gets me high, so I take a ride. Time to get down, so get on up. If you don't know how, make it up. Let's play it loud and turn it up. You gotta go, shake it up. Time to get down, so get on up. If you don't know how, then make it up. So play it loud and turn it up. You gotta go, shake it up. Shake it up, shake it up. Shake it up, shake it up. Oh, you gotta go, shake it up.
For the climb up to Mount Sterling, we were left with no doubt about being in an alpine region, as the temperatures were well down into the single digits and a heated vest were turned on. Despite the blustery wind, Craig's Hut didn't disappoint. With our heads just below the clouds, we still managed to enjoy the views, with the hills receding off in layers to the distance.
Time to get down, so get on up. If you don't know how, make it up. Let's play it loud and turn it up. You gotta go, shake it up. Time to get down, so get on up. If you don't know how, then make it up. So play it loud and turn it up. You gotta go, shake it up. Shake it up, shake it up. Shake it up, shake it up.
A little further along from Craig's Hut is Lake Cobbler, perched high up on an escarpment. This lake always seems to be so serene and calm, no matter the weather around on the day. Lake Buffalo sits just below the mountain which shares its name. We rode directly over the dam wall, and then it was a left turn north towards Myrtleford.
Because you know what ride's like. What did I say? Peter is bleeding like a pig for hours, and he said, F that. So he put something in his helmet and rode 100 kilometers per hour. His nose was running like crazy and splashed all the blood in the helmet, in the visor, everywhere. That bike is too strong for him. He can't handle that. It's just... No, seriously, when he was on the Beamer, he test rode that one. 2 minutes later, he had a nosebleed for 2 hours. He said, so he said, Peter, get another bike.
Has that happened before?
Yeah, last time we were out together, he gives me the nosebleed.
Most riders were happy for this shorter day and took it as an opportunity to chill out and relax for a few hours in Brighton. With a large, inescapable band of rain forecast for this evening, we made the call to delay riders' briefing until the next morning so we could see what effect the weather would have on our planned route. Several riders took the opportunity to fit new rubber to have the best possible grip for the next day. As usual, the work area became the social hub, not to mention it was a dry spot to hang out and avoid the rain. And yes, it did rain. Off to the pub for dinner, where everyone was telling their war stories over a few ales. Day 4, Brighton to Jindabyne, New South Wales, 379 kilometres.
Jorden, what are you doing?
Well, there was a few puddles.
Not on the route that I went on.
I got lost.
After the route.
Yeah, so probably not a good choice. I did not play this game properly. We are riding up over Falls Creek. I got wet boots. But adventure's about solving problems.
And it looks like
so you empty the bin liner out. Luckily enough, they have a system where they have a spare bin liner under the bin liner that they put. So we swipe both.
Freshies.
This is how we're playing it.
We had our riders briefing in the car park, where I laid out our revised ride plan for the day. This meant cutting out a short section of dirt just at the start, heading over towards Mount Beauty.
That'd be good. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the day.
That still left us with some amazing bitumen twisties to run through. Being late May, we're in Bright at the tail end of autumn, but there was still a hint of the gorgeous deciduous colours on the trees around town. A quick squirt on bitumen over to Wonga Gap was a chance to scrub the dirt off the tyres and feather the edge off the knobbers.
Well, I'm running like my hands on fire, and I don't intend to stop even when my legs grow tired. Yes, I'm stumbling on a piece of mind. There's regret in my soul that I've been knocking by.
The view from the lookout over Mount Beauty and down the Kiwa Valley looked particularly pretty this morning. Hidden behind the clouds was Victoria's highest peak, Mount Bogong. Leaving the lookout, some bright spark thought it would be a good idea to have a dead engine race down the hill into Mount Beauty. This led to some sketchy overtaking moves, doing everything we could to stay off the brakes.
Hold on tight, but don't let go. I need you like now more than ever before. Want you to forsake me, don't let it be now. There is a place that
It was about this time that someone mentioned it would be cool to see some snow today. With the altitudes along our route getting up over 1400 metres for the day, there was a good chance we would come across some snow. As we climbed higher into the clouds, visibility became difficult and the cold seeped in. Seeing the signs for Falls Creek, a detour was made to seek out the white stuff. We just couldn't pass through the high country without getting some snow under the tyres.
We were going up higher, see, but apparently it's closed somewhere up there.
Oh, it's going that way. Oh, we can put a bit of stainless on there.
Through the mist at Falls Creek Village, we found what we were looking for with a blanket of the white stuff covering the ground. It didn't take much encouragement to get the boys having a play. Mitter was calling for a morning tea break, but first we had to get over the slippery roads of Trappers Gap. After some recent roadworks, they were smooth as the M3 freeway, but also that meant they were surprisingly slippery in places. Some delicate use of the controls was called for. sausage roll and a coffee at Mitta General Store was just what the body was craving to warm it up. A somewhat lengthy run on the bitumen south towards Omeo was tense at times, with wet bitumen making it hard for us to relax on the roads. Coming in towards Benambra, we were greeted by sweeping open views with barely any trees on the hills at this altitude. Despite the sun, it was still very cold and in the single digits. We took a break on top of one of the hills to take in the grand views. How could you not appreciate the views up here? Lake Omeo was next, and typically the lake bed is dry and flat, offering a great chance to really open up your bike. Today it was a tad damp though, making for more like jet skiing than motorcycling. So we're about midway through Great Divide Ride, day 4, and we're in the little township of Omeo, nestled up high in the high country. We're about to tackle Berri Way, heading up towards Jindabine, and that's a favourite road for adventure riders. Conditions should be beautiful in there today. Looking forward to it. Leading us into Jindabine is one of the most iconic adventure riding roads in Australia, the Berri Way. The road surface changes to decomposed granite, which makes for some super slippery lines around the never-ending corners. Riders are faced with the solid dirt wall on one side of the road and a sheer drop down to the snowy river on the other side. Although the gorgeous views can be distracting, you need to keep your concentration up. We would climb from a low of 250 metres in the valley near Sugunbugan up to 1250 metres just before reaching Jindabine for our overnight stop. Fantastic accommodation and meals awaited us at Ridges, Jindabine.
How was today? Cold? Yes. That is some great riding there. I think we were super lucky with conditions today. Rain last night, kept the dust down, and the roads, Berri Way in particular, was probably the best I've ever seen it in terms of, well, I didn't actually see it tonight, but it felt good, what I felt through the tyres. We're now in New South Wales, and I've got to say, it was perfect timing by Jorden this afternoon to get tech support or sweep support. We left Benambra and we're on a bit of a mission to try and get into Jindabine before dark, so we're doing maybe a little bit over the speed limit, maybe over the advised tyre speed recommendation as we left Benambra. Probably about 300 metres after Jorden went blitzing past the ute, his back tube blew, throwing rubber chunks out the back. So we loaded the bike straight on the back of the ute, didn't you, Jord? It was warm on the way to Jindabine, but you timed that perfectly. We've got a fair distance we've got to cover. We're heading across to the coast tomorrow, so we're right up in the Alpine High Country today. We're heading across to the coast, south coast of New South Wales, and it's basically a 400k route, more or less. That's a good thing about being on the coast, out of the elevations. It's going to be warm tomorrow, so be prepared to strip off some layers.
Day 5, Jindabine to Huskisson, 391 kilometres. As it turns out, we had escaped the cold southern state just in time to beat yet another Victorian COVID lockdown.
It's going to be beautiful out there. Look how clear and sunny it is. It's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to going back into this Ballara Valley. It's a really pretty spot.
If we had been less than 24 hours later crossing the border, we would have been in all sorts of bother with the statewide lockdown imposed in Victoria. Phew, talk about dodging a bullet.
Hey Andrew, how's your stacking game going, mate?
It's getting better every day. Yeah, still not quite there, but by the end, hopefully I'll be good at it.
One bullet that was inescapable though was the biting cold. Most riders reported feeling the coldest this morning as the altitudes we rode through varied between 800 and 1200 metres and the thermometer hovered in the low single digits.
Back into it!
Back in the game!
Back into the game! It was 0 degrees when I pulled it out this morning.
Forced enough. Pick me up. Comes in quick, no one inside.
By many riders' account, today was found to be the hardest of the event so far. Once we got closer to the coast, we got into some proper steep country in Dua National Park. This was one of the many areas that got smashed by widespread bushfires in the summer of 2019-2020. The ability of the Australian landscape to recover is impressive, but the scars were still visible on the trunks of the trees. The first river crossing of the morning gave pause for many riders to stop and take in the views. Further into the valley, and the country opened out to some beautiful, sweeping, grass-covered hills that many cows called home. I wouldn't mind calling this home. We had a lot of distance to cover, but it was doable if you had a good clean run and kept moving. Of course, having a good clean run is not really what adventure riding is about. Followed the ridgelines north, more or less right on top of the Great Dividing Range, with the coast visible in places just off our right shoulder. The run alongside the Clyde River was beautiful and calm. I even found a seal searching for fish close to the riverbank a good 10 kilometres upstream from the ocean. Such a treat. Somewhere in amongst this forest was a particular hill that caught many riders out. Time and approaching darkness was the enemy for many riders today. riders were arriving late into Huskisson, many after dark. But it was a phone call from Ros and George that sends shivers up the spine of event organisers. In their attempt to shortcut out of the Jura National Park, they had followed Google Maps advice as to the quickest way out. As many adventure riders can attest to, this is fraught with peril. They had headed back west and encountered some god-awful steep country that had tested the riding abilities of Ros and George and their 450s. It was about 6:30 p.m. and they were a good 300 kilometres south of where they were supposed to be, with it now well and truly dark and getting very cold very quickly. Fortunately, they had mobile reception on top of a hill, so with GPS in hand I was able to pinpoint their location and give them instructions on the best route to get them out of the forest and onto known good roads back to the bitumen. A plan was made to get them back into Cooma, which they'd passed through at about 9 a.m. that morning. The incredible colours of sunrise this morning over Jervis Bay were a stark contrast to the dark night that Ros and George had to endure on the trails last night. Fortunately, they did make it in safe and sound back to Cooma last night, and they vowed to get back on track and catch up with the group in Lithgow tonight. I was really looking forward to today. The Blue Mountains are a spectacular part of the Great Dividing Range, and they sit at the back door of Sydney. This is such a formidable mountain range though. There are only a couple of roads that cut through the sandstone escarpments. Plenty of secrets lay in between. One such secret is the old gold mining town of Yarra Ranges. This is tucked way deep in a valley with just one road in and one road out. And what a road it is.
Hearts like stone, fire in our bones.
Once out of the forest on the bitumen and no longer working hard, it got cold again, real cold.
Bit easier than yesterday. You. Oh, we're going to check in tonight.
We found the old village, we found some enduro, we found some dust, we found some rocks. Just an all-round excellent day.
Yeah, today was a great hour for everyone to get in as opposed to the last few days. I can actually still see the clipboard. It's really great.
Excellent day, another excellent day, 440 Ks. Yeah, went into Yarra, which is always good to go in there. Very nice. Excellent tracks today, and even a little bit of pine forest stuff at the end when you think you're going to be on the tyre, and then they throw in about 10 Ks of pine forest just to keep us on our toes. So yeah, well done Nick and Trudy, another great day.
The mood in the bar that night was high, and everyone soon warmed up with a few drinks and a fantastic feed. We will definitely be coming back here again.
Who's running Senna intercom systems this week? Pretty good technology, isn't it? You're riding a Husky 701 now, but you used to have a GS.
And I cruised past and I can't help but comment to Nick, nice to pass a BMW GS. And I heard that.
Whoops. So be warned of technology.
Keep your thoughts to yourself.
Also, Roz and George would be grateful if I didn't mention the fact they got lost last night and ended up in Cooma.
Welcome back.
Come on, come on.
We're just heading towards Kosciuszko, and it just got worse and worse, and some of those gnarly climbs, just loose shaley, you know, those erosion humps. That track hadn't been used for about 20 years, and it was overgrown. The lesson to learn is that things can turn to shit very, very quickly. We were in deep shit, you know. I had a cigarette lighter to light a fire, but still, if someone got injured, you really want a space blanket, an EPIRB thing to alert people where you are. When we contacted Nick on our way back to Cooma, he booked a motel room for us, and they had a heater going for us when we got back, which was very appreciative. So thanks, Nick, and thanks Trudy for your help.
And we are going to the Hunter Valley tomorrow afternoon. Lots of good wineries around. When we get onto the Yengo track, lots of fun there. It's I'd call it a grade 3 to 3.5. Definitely adventure route worthy, but there is a few sandy patches, as in you'll be coming around corners and just a bit of loose sand on the corners. A couple of little rock steps, a few loose rocks, but a nice flow through there. Really good fun. How have you all enjoyed this week?
Day 7, Lithgow to Pecolbin, 269 kilometres. Spare a thought for our ultra-dedicated lead riders who had to ride in the dark for the first couple of hours of each day. Without the sun's warming rays, they even had to resort to buying tin foil baking trays to zip tie to their handguards in an attempt to stave off the cold. Apparently, it was effective. The morning was a cold, cold start. The Weather Bureau told us it had dropped down to minus 2.7 overnight.
Holy fresh. Whew. Who was it that couldn't start this morning?
Paul.
Oh.
I just don't. Wouldn't ride anything without heated grips anymore.
We slightly delayed our departure time to allow the ice to melt off the roads that the lead riders had warned us about. Those boys did a sterling job this week.
Yeah, final day. Just got to keep it all together one more day, right?
I'm chasing my fate, all by myself. I find no luck in wishing well. This road I'm on ain't no sure way to beat the struggle. There's a price to pay. Ain't no brick walls surrounding me. I'm breaking these chains and I'm running free.
Down the Bells line of road we went, with spectacular views of the Blue Mountains to distract us. Old Mother Putty is a famous road ride just out of Sydney. In fact, fair to say, it is probably the most famous. Truth be told, as an adventure rider, I can't see what the fuss is about. It is speed limited to 80 kilometres per hour and so heavily policed. But what the Putty Road did give us access to is one of the coolest adventure tracks close to Sydney, Howes Trail and Yengo Track.
Now's my time. I see the flame are shining bright. I feel the heat burn up inside. While I'm on this train, I'm gonna keep riding. But when there's trouble, gonna strike with lightning. Nobody's broke, I can't see me. There ain't no rest till the rest in peace. And then there may be mountains and hills to climb, but it's now or never to win this fight. Oh, I gotta win this fight.
The entrance to Yengo National Park off the Putty is an obscure wire gate just over the crest of a hill that is so easy to miss. Once through the gate though, there is a world of fun to be had cutting over sandstone jump ups on a nice flowing four-wheel drive track. Jorden and I had some fun here trying to pass riders to scoot ahead and get footage of them. Our task was to then load back up to hunt them down again. Somewhere in here that Jorden got his ambitions mixed up with his abilities and laid the KTM 690 down, causing the rear brake lever to be bent up in all sorts of obscene ways. Jord was adamant he was happy to continue with it as is, so we motored on. Well, we didn't motor far actually. A little further on and Jord was out of fuel. We found a bank on the side of the track and siphoned some gas out of the Big Brother 890 Adventure R. All was good in the world again.
Lay down, heaven can wait. Think you're right, I think you could change. Try some blood, I'm not going hungry tonight.
A coffee break at Laguna to tell some stories. And then it was on to the Hunter Valley to finish off stage 1 of our Great Divide ride. It was a success. The crew was stoked. So good to see huge smiles on everyone's faces. The big sense of achievement was felt by many.
stage one done.
Good job, mate.
Great. How was it? Bloody good. Yeah.
Good.
Been waiting 4 long years to do another machine ride, so it's definitely worth it.
How good was that day today?
Had fun?
Can't wait for the second bit. We're going to do it tomorrow.
Awesome.
Right now.
We did it! Finally.
And now we're bugged.
We're going to the bar.
We got all 87 riders, bar 2, to the finish. Robert and Craig would make recoveries from their leg injuries, and no doubt we will catch up with them on future rides.
Thank you all for making it here. 7 days of riding across the Great Dividing Range. Awesome achievement. Well done, folks. I said last Saturday that this ride's been in the planning since 2013, and it definitely felt like a weight off my shoulders today, knowing that we were getting to the end of the ride, getting here to the Hunter Valley for stage 1. A big congratulations and sincere well done to each and every one of you for getting here. First of all, I love to say a huge thank you to all of the staff, all the support crew to make this event happen.
To pull off an event of this scale takes a team of amazing people. A huge thanks to the crew that worked on this event. Lead rider, Dave. Lead rider, Paul. Sweep rider, Gavin. Medic, David. Luggage van driver, Rowie. Sweep vehicle driver, Scotty. Videographer, Jordan. Event manager and owner, Trudy. Route coordinator and owner, Nick. On 30th of December 2021, we lost our good mate Paul Kiwi Ravel. He was a key part of Team Machine for many years, and he will be greatly missed.